Mr. President, last week as I attended various events back home in Indiana, I heard from many Hoosiers concerned about the impact of Obamacare. I went back to listen to the people. And almost invariably, no matter what subjects were on the table, the impact of Obamacare it was the one that was brought up first and discussed the most. I particularly focused on those businesses that are in a position to expand and hire, but simply are not doing so. And the question was why? And the answer was that they are deeply concerned about the implementation of the so-called Affordable Care Act, basically saying, for us, it's unaffordable, number one. Number two, we're confused about what it means and what it doesn't mean. These regulations are continuing to come out, but many of them are delayed. And so there is a huge cloud of uncertainty over our future. And as a consequence of that, we are having to make decisions about hiring or not hiring, about expanding or not expanding, about buying new equipment or not buying new equipment, about building new factories or not. We have positioned ourselves in Indiana to be a very business-attractive state. And in fact, a major survey came out just a couple of days ago basically saying we were in the top 5 states in the nation in terms of being business-friendly. And so we have a lot of inquiries from businesses from other states, but essentially what they're saying is we would like to come there, and we have a lot of people in our state operating businesses saying we would like to hire more, but we are frozen in place. We are frozen in time because this health care bill that is coming down and all the regulations and all the penalties and all the taxes and all the uncertainty that surrounds what is going to play out here is just leaving us in limbo. We're treading water. We can't make decisions. The word of the year is uncertainty. Uncertainty about what Washington is going to do, uncertainty about the impact of what Washington has already decided they're going to do. And the number one topic that beats all the rest is the impact of the Affordable Care Act, the Obamacare Act, that is now starting to impact our various businesses across the state. These concerns have been expressed both by business owners and by employees working in a wide range of occupations. And their concern has been confirmed by data released by the Labor Department last week. The recent report revealed that retailers appear to be cutting working hours at a rate unseen of over the last 30 years. Now, we saw some positive news coming out of the jobs report last week, unemployment coming down slightly. Of course, it doesn't begin to address the issue or use the statistics of those who have literally dropped out of the workplace or have literally given up trying to find a job because they just simply aren't there. But now we face another problem. More and more Americans are being pushed into part-time work, which isn't enough to provide for a family. Just last month, nearly 280,000 Americans involuntarily entered part-time employment. Weekly take-home pay continues to decline, and of course the number of hours that employees can find gainful employment for continue to shrink. Now, why is this change occurring? Well, Investor's Business Daily reported that, and I quote, "All evidence points to the coming launch of Obamacare as the reason for this decline in the average retail work week. Beginning next year, as we know, job creators will face fines of $2,000 and in some instances up to $3,000 for every full-time worker who receives subsidized coverage in the exchanges created by Obamacare if qualifying coverage isn't available in the employee's workplace, or if that employer is no longer able to afford the cost of government-mandated health plans. Many have worked out with their employees. These are small, but we're not talking about Fortune 500 companies here. We're not talking about those firms that can hire the back room full of lawyers and accountants to figure out what this health care plan is going to impact, how it's going to impact them, and what it's going to cost. We're talking about the service industry. We're talking about the retail shops, those that employ anywhere from 30 to 40 to 60 to 70 to 90 or whatever. A lot of them are trying to stay under the 50 level, the exclusion for small businesses 50 and under. And so a lot of them are stuck at 45, 48, and they're not going to hire to go above that. And they're looking for ways with which to move to part-time employment so that they are not burdened with these fines. Many Hoosiers told me that they would like to expand and grow more full-time workers, but they simply cannot afford to do so given these fines, taxes, and regulations that will hit when the Obamacare Act is implemented starting this year and into 2014. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has said 71% of small businesses say that this health care plan makes it harder to hire more employees. I talked to a small business owner in Indiana who runs an employment management service. He told me that small businesses like his have decided to use a combination of cuts to keep many of their employees under 30 hours a week to avoid penalties while pushing full-time workers well over 45 hours a week. Well, that's fine for the full-time workers who are getting some overtime pay, but it is denying job opportunities for new hires because employers are put in this position by the mandates of the Health Care Act. And it's not just limited to the private sector. I recently talked to a state representative from Indiana who was concerned about how this law is going to affect school districts in his area. He says that some schools are being forced to move non-teacher personnel to part-time status, affecting food service providers, teachers' aides, bus drivers, substitute teachers, maintenance personnel, and also non-teacher coaches. People from all walks of life have a dark cloud of uncertainty over their future plans to run a business, to hire employees, to do what's necessary to expand their business, and what is so desperately needed here, given our now entering the 5th year of underemployment in this country. So that incentive to employ part-time workers means fewer hours, lower wages, less economic growth, less production, and it means that middle-class Americans will continue to pay the price of Washington's ineptness. One of our colleagues here said it best when he was looking at the implementation of the health care law. And I quote, "I just see a huge train wreck coming down." I think it's becoming clear that we all see a huge train wreck coming down. And if both sides of the aisle here understand that this is a train wreck on the way, then let's do something about it now before it hits. Let's stop the train from crashing before its full impact on the economy takes effect. Americans want a health care system that's an improvement but not a burden. We need to replace Obamacare with common sense health care reforms that will lower costs without penalizing American workers and job creators. And Mr. President, if we don't act, if we don't stop this train wreck from happening, we will continue to see a struggling economy with anemic growth, and the American people will continue to pay the high price of it. Mr. President, I yield the floor.